I did sell it. I sold it out of my personal portfolio. A number of our clients continue to add to it, continue to hold it, which is totally fine. I decided, Josh, as you said, not to be greedy, right?
$1 trillion market cap to you marked the top.
And when I saw that,
I didn't sell.
No, what I'm saying is I actually decided not to get greedy. You brought up folks getting greedy and not getting greedy. I said, look, $1 trillion market cap here. There are some concerns that I have going forward in the name, although my entire house is full of Apple products. I sold it because I said it hit a price point. I'm very disciplined about where I think stocks should be. And do I think it possibly could still, like Mr. Buffett said, go to 250? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. But for me, at this point in time, the risks did not outweigh the reward.
I understand. How long did you own it?
Oh, gosh, Scott, it's been a while.
So you owned it at much lower levels then?
Much lower levels.
So we entertain this question, right? And almost everybody out there, right? I mean, if the ownership load is so big for Apple that we asked this question on the day that it hit $1 trillion. Whether it's time, forget about whether there's still time to get in and those sort of questions. More like, is it time to take some off the table? To do what Kourtney did, to say the $1 trillion mark is a good chance to maybe get some off the table. Ring the ATM and put it somewhere else.
So ring the ATM. First off, congratulations. You never take a shot at somebody for taking profits. Okay, nothing wrong with that.
Thank you.
However, I think the stock's going higher.
I agree.
I mean, and look, there's a lot of reasons for it. Let's just start with the fact that you name any of the big ETFs out there, what's the largest holding? It's going to be Apple. It doesn't matter if it's a triple Qs, Spider, Russell 1000 growth, it's going to be Apple.
That doesn't mean it's immune.
Wait. What that means is, as we were talking about at the top of the show, as investors come back in, a lot of them are going to be passive investors. They're going to be ETF investors. They're going to flood into those ETFs, and that's natural buying for Apple. I mean, that's just one thing. Then we get into the valuation, which is considerably cheap in my mind. The fact that the iPhone franchise or the services, I mean, I can go on and on. Is that enough, or do you want to take a shot back?
I actually think
More
it's
than
about
enough.
it's about position. It was about positioning. Since March, I mean, the other FANGs did so well. They were up something like 30 to 40, 50%, right up until when Apple reported. So Apple actually lagged Facebook and Amazon and Netflix by almost 25% into the print. So therefore, I don't think institutional holders, managers, really owned it like people think that they did. Maybe it was more of a retail, maybe it's more of an ETF, but active managers did not own this as aggressively as the other FANGs. And that's why I think this stock can actually still work.
They were de facto underweight Apple.
They sure were. Which
is basically, if your benchmark is large cap growth or even S&P. You're de facto saying, I don't like Apple.
That was one of the reasons.
That stance.
Look, that was one of the reasons laid out in the Icon thesis, that it was under-owned, so it was going to go to these levels because you get a de facto short squeeze when you get the institutions who don't own it back
So I think with Apple, if you're an investor, you're not like saying like, all right, $1 trillion, that's it, I'm done, because you recognize that they're going to continue to shrink the float, and it doesn't necessarily have to stay at $1 trillion. It actually has to keep climbing to maintain $1 trillion if the float will continue to shrink at the current rate. That's A. B, I'm from the old school. I think fundamentals tell you what you want to buy and what you don't, or what you want to sell, but technicals should be the thing that gets you into or out of a trade. If you're looking at the fundamentals on Apple, I don't see any flies on it. If you're looking at the technicals, there's no sign saying this run is over or coming to an end, so I think you have a green light from multiple perspectives. That could certainly change. It did not change for the worse at any point in the last few months.
So where then do you deploy the capital that you got from the Apple ATM?
So just to make my other Apple holders happy, in which by again, I said I am a huge consumer of it. What I said was I actually decided to go into some other names to play off of Apple, right? So some of their suppliers. So I do still think the name is going to go higher. It's an incredible company, more broadly speaking, but there are other places where I can double, triple, quadruple my money in a lot faster time frame.
Give me a couple of names.
I mean, so like Lumentum, right? So the facial recognition on the iPhone, that's who creates it for them, right? So buying into a Lumentum, I bought it and I talked about it on the show several months ago. I'm continuing to add to that position, and I think it does continue to go higher. So looking at some of the suppliers to Apple to get a higher return on my capital than just kind of sitting with Apple in my back pocket. Like I said, I bought it very, very cheap, below 100, and sold it at 208. I think it's slightly below that now. It's a trade I'm happy with at this point, and I'm still going to continue to buy Apple and continue to buy components of Apple.